This was a very impromptu filming because they've all gone out food shopping, so I have the house quiet. So we've got to use the time, but it does mean this is a bit of a mess. I apologise. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten. I hope you're all doing well. Today we are talking about my top 10 favourite fantasy books. If you've been with my channel for a little while, you know we've been on a journey through the different genres of things that I like. At the start of this channel I was primarily just a fantasy reader. I didn't really diverge much, and then the start of this year I went headfirst into classics and absolutely loving them. I've read loads of classics this year, and then I've started expanding more into Greek mythology retellings, into murder mysteries and all sorts of stuff. Technically Greek mythology retellings is still fantasy books, however none of the Greek myth retellings are going to be mentioned in this because I'm going to be doing some separate content all around the different Greek myth books that I've read. But yeah, these are my top 10 fantasy. I've really been loving fantasy again, really getting back to my roots, especially knowing the sort of fantasy that I really like now and I really appreciate. And so that's what this video is all about, is just showing off the different fantasy books I like. Let me know if you like any of these, if you've read any of them, and also if you've got any recommendations for me based off of these books that you think I might like. But before I get into the top 10, I do just want to do a special mention, and that is A Court of Silver Flames, or technically Sarah J Maas in general. Sarah J Maas has been one of my absolute favourite fantasy authors for a long time. Ever since the third Throne of Glass book came out, that's when I found her work, and I have been following her stuff ever since. It's not perfect and it's definitely like full of flaws and stuff, however I love her characters, I love these worlds so much. A Court of Silver Flames is my favourite book out of all of her books so far. I love this one. I have read it a couple times already. I've annotated this one. It's really good, and this does lean more towards fantasy romance than anything else. This is the fourth book in A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which started out as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and then the second book was more of a Hades and Persephone retelling, and it's going on from there. I don't know, I love her books. I did just want to briefly mention her in general as someone that I do adore. This for me is like my top favourite, but I also know that book recommendations based on this book I don't enjoy, and that's why I'm not really mentioning it as part of the rest of these books, but Sarah J Maas holds a special place in my heart. I've literally been editing this video. I had to. I wasn't going to mention this book because I did read it after filming this. Technically I'm still reading it, but I wanted to mention Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, and this book is so fantastic. I love it so much. I am currently halfway through. This is just the dust jacket, and this is definitely going to be a new favourite fantasy, so I just really wanted to briefly mention it. It will be in my favourite books of the year video, but it just didn't feel right not having a mention for this book, so this would definitely be part of that top 10. So it has changed slightly, and to be honest, even trying to cut it down to 10 was, as you will find out, ridiculously hard. I really enjoyed this book. It's so good. I love it so much. It's absolutely perfect. We are following Viv, who is an orc that's given up her fighting ways to open a coffee shop in a town where nobody knows what coffee is. The descriptions are absolutely stunning. I am loving this. It is the perfect cozy fantasy story. So yeah, I had to mention it. I had to. Now we're going to get back to the video, where after this is going to be a hell of a tangent about Brandon Sanderson. So enjoy. So with that out of the way, let's move to the books that I genuinely really loved, and if you've got any recommendations based on these ones, please let me know. If Sarah J Maas is the queen of fantasy for me, then Brandon Sanderson is the king. Hands down. I love his books. The Cosy books, to be precise. I don't like his other works. I have tried. I mean, Skyward I didn't mind, and that one's good, but it doesn't hold the same love that his Cosy does. Now I'm just showing you Elantris. This is one of the first standalones in the Cosy, but all of his Cosy books. The Mistborn trilogy, the Stormlight Archive books, Warbreaker, love them all. They're so good, they're fantastic. This one in particular is more of a political fantasy book. Regardless, all of the Cosmo books do link up into one another, which I really enjoy. And this one I feel like doesn't get as much love as some of his other books, but I think it's a nice place to start. Either start with Mistborn or starting with Elantris or Warbreaker is a really good way, like a nice little segue into his work, especially because this is a standalone. And this one we are following, what's their name? Oh yeah, Serene. Sanderson is another one where pronunciations of names, I have to guess and hope that I'm getting it right, which is the case with a lot of fantasy books I find. But Serene, she is to be married and it's a political marriage, and she gets sent into this town, but things aren't quite as they seem, and there are these people that become grey, where everything about them becomes grey, and they're all sent into this city that's walled off within the city until Serene's like, no, this is wrong, as she starts rocking the boat. And there's also political things that are going on, so definitely more of a political fantasy. I'd say the magic system isn't as in depth with this, so depending on the sort of magic that you like is again different places to start with Sanderson. This one's more political heavy. Warbreaker, I would say, is more, Warbreaker is a bit more with the magic system. We've got gods and things that you actually interact with, and I would say this is more of a young adult book to go into adult fantasy. Elantris, I would say, is a little bit more in the adult fantasy genre just because of all the politicalness of it, but it's still a good one if you're trying to go from different genres. But if you're preferring YA and want to... This is not a Brandon Sanderson video. Clearly I need to do one because I'm talking for England. Brandon Sanderson. Love his books. One of my favourites. He, as an author, reaches this top 10 of my favourite books. Sanderson video coming soon, apparently. Another book, I'm not going to say... I was literally about to say another book that I absolutely love. I love all of these, clearly. So we're not going to say that anymore. The next book, these are in no particular order by the way, is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent, and this is Marie Brennan. I discovered Marie Brennan this year. I love her books so much. This is the second book that I've read by her. The first book I read she co-wrote with another author and I really enjoyed it. This one, oh my god. So good, so good. We're following Lady Trent and it's her memoir of her life, and I like that because like a normal memoir, she's looking back on her life and telling us the story, and alongside this you get anecdotes and just her kind of butting in and going, I made some silly mistakes there, and I really enjoyed it. It had a nice bit of humour to this. We're in a society where Lady Trent is not meant to be interested in natural history, that's seen as a masculine pursuit. She is given quite a lot of leeway by her father though, and she's allowed to do what she wants until the day that she's meant to marry, and she feels very frustrated with all of this, frustrated with where her place in society as a woman is, and it's completely understandable. Luckily for her, the person she ends up with is very understanding, and they go off to find dragons because Lady Trent loves dragons, she loves exploring them, and she wants to do a proper natural history all about dragons that no one else has ever done. This was really good. It's also a bit disturbing in places because for science they are dissecting dragons, so you do get descriptions of that, which still off-putting to me, still didn't like, but I really enjoyed this book. They uncover a plot to do with dragons and everything. It's fantastic. It's really, really good, and each book in the series follows a different area and different dragons. I've only read the first one, but I'm telling you this series is a new favourite. I've always gone with the tagline of this is Jane Austen with dragons, and yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Better, I don't know. Camera adjustments in the middle of filming. Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss is a book that I have said for the last 11 years? Yeah, about 11 years that this is my favourite fantasy book. And you know what? I stand to it. I haven't reread it in a little while, so I should before I say that, because I have found loads of new favourites. But this is the book that made me discover this particular type of fantasy that I like, and you will see a recurring theme of that. And it's following Kvothe, again, smashing keyboards, authors, come on. And we're following him as he grows up. We follow him from a young child when his parents get murdered, and so he's an orphan trying to live in the streets of this city, how difficult it is. We then see him trick his way into this prestigious school and him getting a group of friends and stuff. Like, he's all growing up with it, and then all of his like deeds and things that he does. But again, he is an adult telling his story, this time to someone that wants to record his story. And so he gives the gentleman 3 days, and each day is a book, and he's telling his life's story. I love these. There is a gripe though, and the gripe is we've been waiting 10 years for the second book and there is still no release date. There's not even a murmur of what's going to happen with this, and that is the gripe. And it's also why, as much as I can say this is my favourite book ever, I'm also a bit hesitant for people to go into it because we are waiting on that third book. However, if that thing doesn't bother you, read it. Give it a try. I love it. It's so good. There is a couple of short novellas that go alongside this, and I love those as well. It's really good. We have magic, we have a bit of almost like a fairy tale folklore vibe to this as well, which I really enjoy. And then you have the friendship and everything that goes along with it. It's really good. I really like it. I actually got to meet Patrick Ross and he signed a copy of the second book, which I was so ecstatic about, and yeah. This is so good. You can tell how long I've had it because the pages are all yellowed. It's honestly quite disgusting, but I also love this. This is definitely one of my favourites. Okay, a more recent book is Malice by John Gwynne. I would say the whole quartet, to be honest. I really enjoyed this. I actually picked this up because of my sister. She really liked it and recommended it to me, and of course I was like, okay, I will give this a try, and she was right. I really enjoyed this. This is the Faithful and Fallen series, and it's a epic fantasy that is centered on a war, and it's kind of like angels and demons that are using humankind as pawns in their war, and we're following multiple different characters. As a result of that, you get to see it from both sides of the conflict, and there are giants, there's magic in this, there's different really hellish creatures that get used, and it's so intense. This first book is a bit more slower paced because we are just getting to know all our different characters. It's setting up all the different pieces on the playing field ready for this war, and that's what the first book is. However, the second, third and fourth book, they don't let up. They do not let up. It's so intense. The stakes are so high. I actually really believed those stakes that were there. It was so intense, so well done, and I liked how there were times in this where I was just like, why can't this character die? They're so horrible, and it just never happened. Our good guys never seemed to catch a break. It was a wild ride, to the point where I was reading the third book one month, the fourth book the next month, the vlogs for it were going off on one. I loved it. It was so good, so intense, such a good ride. Would really recommend if you like the epic high fantasy with war and stuff. Really good. I haven't read any of his other books. I did really enjoy this quartet. Speaking of war, something a little bit different. We have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I've enjoyed Piranesi by Susanna Clarke as well. This is a book that I read earlier this year, and you will be seeing in my top favourites for 2022. It's a chunker. It took me a while to get through, but I loved it. There is a war going on in this because it's actually based in the history of England. So the Napoleonic War that went on. So this is more of like a historical fantasy book. Really enjoyed it though. So we have Mr. Norrell, who is basically the last wizard. He's very much like keeping the magic and everything to himself. However, we then have Jonathan Strange, who realises that he has the capabilities to be a wizard as well, and kind of forces Mr. Norrell to teach him. And you have these two very juxtaposing people and how their views are. As a result, it makes the chapters really interesting because Mr. Norrell is a really, really boring person. Everyone says it about him. He is dry as paper. And that means when you get to his chapters from his perspective, it is dry. It's a slog. But it worked so well, and I just think that is a mark of an amazing writer, where when you're reading it you can feel that person's perspective. Yes, it was a slog to get through those parts, but it was just who Mr. Norrell is. And then the parts of Jonathan Strange, they're a bit more chaotic, a bit more all over the place and stuff, because he flicks from one thing to another naturally, like that's what his mind does. And so those were a lot more fast paced and everything was going on. And then Mr. Norrell is slow and plodding, and I loved it. Some people can't get on with it because of that, and I do understand it. For me, I loved it, and I just thought it was amazing writing skills. This book is heavily influenced by the folklore of like fairy and magic that is surrounding England, and you have a lot a lot of footnotes in this book. Some of the footnotes will be just a sentence. Some of the footnotes will be a whole separate, like 3 pages inside the story that's telling you a folk tale about fairy. And I love it. It's great. And you do have that mix of, okay, the past history of England, the setting that is all set in the Napoleonic War, but then you also have a perspective of, I think it's the Raven King, that is just filled with magic, and you feel that it's not quite right. It seems a little bit darker and sinister. It's got everything. This was such a good book. I really want to reread it. And even though it's big, like, I don't mind. I think I would love to reread it and annotate it and take my time. It might take me like all month or maybe even 2 months because I'm annotating it, but I think it would be an amazing time. Okay, another book I loved, and this one I read last year, and that's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Have you seen the new covers for those? Erin Morgenstern's had recovers and they look stunning. Fantastic. I've enjoyed both of her books actually, but this one, I don't know, it really spoke to me that little bit more. I think upon reread, Starless Sea really will hit it, but upon first read for both of them, Night Circus. And this one we're following 2 different kind of apprentice magicians, and they are being set against one another in this war of who's better magician by teachers, masters, not really sure how to word to use. Fill the gap. And they don't really know why, but they are very reckless. They do not think about the casualties, the people that they are with, what it does to them. And I mean, it was something that really got me thinking about this book, the fact that they are so careless and reckless about their magic. We have the circus. So this is where their stage is, their performance to out magic each other. And it's a night circus. It only appears at night. It's full of wonderful things that could not possibly happen. And so everyone's like, oh my god, shock and awe, and it is all magic. It is these 2 magicians trying to outsmart and outwit the other. I think this ending was beautiful. I loved it. And again, this is more like a historical setting as well. As we can see, a historical fantasy is where I thrive. And yeah, this was so beautiful. I would really recommend, especially for like an autumn day. Oh my god. Cup of tea, this book, rain and wind outside, you have yourself a winner. A winner, I tell you. Another beautiful book that I read last year that I absolutely adore. Was it last year or was it the year before? 2 years ago. And that's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Oh my god, you guys, I want to do a reread so much, but I want the paperback version. It's been 2 years, people. We still don't have a paperback. Can we please have a paperback so I can annotate it? Because I am not annotating this beautiful blue sprayed edged hardback edition. Like, it's not happening. Calming down. Okay, this is beautiful though. I love this book. This is my favourite book by V. Schwab. Now this does divide a lot of people because V. Schwab has done lots of different books, fantasy books, but aimed at different audiences. And a lot of people who really, really enjoyed A Darker Shade of Magic don't enjoy this one as much. I liked A Darker Shade of Magic. I can appreciate it. I think it was good. It's not a new favourite. It's not something that I can go, oh my god, I love. Like, I enjoyed it when I read it and I enjoy rereading it, but that's it. And that's how I feel about a lot of her books. Like, she is an auto-buy author and I enjoy them. However, this one, the writing in it is absolutely out of this world beautiful. I loved it so much. It's slow moving. We're following Addie. And Addie is born at a time where women are expected to marry, settle down, have kids, and that's it. They're not meant to have aspirations of their own. And Addie doesn't want that for herself. So she goes into the woods and she prays to the wrong person because she goes in at night and she's trying to escape her wedding, and so she makes a deal basically with the devil, and he goes, okay, fine, you will not have to worry about this, you can make whatever choices you want for the rest of your life. And she's like, amazing, thank you, love it. Turns out that this is a very fickle bargain because now Addie LaRue is long lived, she will live centuries, but nobody will ever remember her. If she walks out a room, that's it. Everybody in that room will forget that she was even there. Anything like that, she will be forgotten. And so a lot of this book is all about what impact can you have? What sort of life do you have if nobody ever remembers you? And it's just so beautiful. I love it. And you have the very light magical element of Addie her abilities now and also the devil and everything that's going on with it. You also get 2 different timelines. You get present day and then also a past timeline where it does skip over like years and stuff, but you see points in Addie's life, things that she's had to deal with because of this bargain that she made. Fantastic book. You know the thing that really bugs me about this cover the whole time I've been talking about it? I've been looking at it the whole time because it's so distracting. It's a sticker I can't take off. So frustrating. But this edition is absolutely stunning. I mean, apart from that sticker, everything else about it is beautiful. And I loved this. It was absolutely beautiful and absolute pleasure and joy to read. And I cannot wait to reread it as soon as that paperback is out. Okay, moving on to a bit more YA now. We have Strange the Dreamer by Lani Taylor. And this one I really enjoyed. Again, I think I read this a couple of years ago. I loved it and I sobbed my heart out at the end of this book. Absolutely floods of tears. I was just, if you had seen me, I would have been in an absolute state. But this is such a lovely book, and again I need to reread it, but that ending, like, I know, stabbed to the heart. But we're following Laszlo Strange, and Laszlo is someone that is an orphan and he's kind of grown up in this library. He's been doing loads of research on a place called Weep. Weep is somewhere that everyone just doesn't even believe is real. It's a town that's been wiped from everyone's memory and all they can remember is that, hey, it's a place called Weep and that's it, nothing else about it. So no one actually believes it's a real place until one day people come from Weep asking, begging for help, and Laszlo Strange gets to go with them and see Weep. Like, it's his lifelong dream. He's always believed it's real. And the things that this book deals with is so good. Like, you've got segregation because of people being different. You've got the fact that Laszlo Strange is such a cinnamon roll character and how people take advantage of him because of that and how he never holds it against them. Like, it's so good. It's so fantastic. You have magic in here as well. I will say the second book I liked, but it does have a completely different feel and tone and vibe to it. So I definitely do prefer just the first one, and I think I would happily leave it as just reading the first one. If I'm like, when I do a reread, I don't think I'd reread the second one, but I do love this. This was really good. I absolutely loved it. Laszlo Strange is one of the most kindest characters ever. Absolute ever. Cinnamon roll. Love him to pieces. Right, okay, last couple. We have I'm showing Layer of Dreams. Pretend it's The Diviners. My sister is reading it. I will get it back when she is done. And that's by Libba Bray, and that's the first in the series. I haven't finished this series, so I am a bit presumptuous, but I have read The Diviners and Layer of Dreams. I love these books so much. They are set in 1920s New York City. We're following Evie in the first book, although you do get multiple different perspectives. Evie has been sent to be with her uncle because she's too outlandish, too outrageous and stuff. However, her uncle is very eccentric and she's not exactly learning propriety with him. Instead, she gets tangled up in a murder that's to do with the occult. And that's what I like about this book. Like, you've got the 1920s vibe and you have the things that you have to deal with in the 1920s, the racism, the segregation, the ban on alcohol. Like, you've got all of that that's being dealt with in this book, and the fact that, you know, you're not allowed to be gay, that's mainly spoken about more in this book as well. Heartbreaking, this book, by the way. Another one I was crying at work. I was reading it and the tears were, I couldn't help it. That's why it made it onto this list, because the second book just had me in the feels. If you can make me cry in a book, you're going to get on this list. I have issues, but it's fine. It's fine. It deals with a lot of those actual issues that were prevalent in the past, but then adds in the murder mystery elements and the occult themes. There is a lot of magic and stuff, but it is all centered around occult vibes, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was so good. I cannot wait to read the third book. I have heard mixed things about the fourth book. To be honest, actually not even mixed. A lot of people just saying it's not good. I'm willing to give it a try. I'm absolutely willing to give it a try. My sister still hasn't read The Diviners, so I cannot wait to see what she thinks when she's read it. Some people can't get on with this series just because of the speech that's used. A lot of it is the slang and stuff that you would get from the 1920s. I love it for that. I think it really generates the atmosphere, the feel. It makes it feel so much more authentic, and it's hilarious. But I do understand why not everyone can get on with that. Really enjoyed this. And then I was stuck between two different books, so I suppose actually I'm doing two special mentions. But we have The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I love this book. I really don't like the second or third book so far. The third book was a bit better than the second book. The second book I really don't enjoy. It's all going to be based on that fourth book whenever that comes out. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed the dark vibes to it. We have vampires and stuff. They're not explicitly mentioned, but it's so well done. I loved it. But as I said, the second one, and that I don't want to be recommending a book where the second one is such a different vibe. I still mention Strange Dreamer because a lot of people still really love Muse of Nightmares. That was just more of a personal thing for me. But this one, you fall into two different characters. People that love this book then do not like the second book, and people that love the second book do not love this book. And I think that kind of really splits the crowd. For me, I love it, but I think it's like an 11th on the list. The 10th, I think, one of the 10th, because again, I didn't rank the top 10, is going to go to Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I always say her name wrong. I'm so sorry. This is cutesy, perfect, warm hug, ridiculousness of a YA fantasy book, and it's ridiculous. Not everybody likes it because it is so cutesy and tropey, and it is, but I love it for it anyway. Like this is like a perfect warm hug, pick me up when I'm feeling down. By the time this video comes out, I would have read the second book, and oh my god, I'm hoping I love it. But I'm also terrified. I've been seeing TikTokers like reading the last bit and being like, oh my god, I can't believe you did this to us and stuff, and so now I'm really worried. Like what's gonna happen? Don't let anything happen to Jax. Like I really like Jax in this. Like I'll be very upset if something has happened to Jax and Evangeline. They're my characters. But this is so good. It's so lovely and heartfelt. I really am actually going to get the paperbacks of these, and I think I'll keep the hardbacks as well. You can tell when a book's my favourite because I will have multiple copies of it and not care that I don't have the shelf space for that, because I'll just be like, I will find space for these books. That's what this is. And I haven't even told you what it's about. We're following Evangeline and Evangeline is in love with a boy, but he is about to marry her stepsister and she is very annoyed about this, and so she goes to Jax, who happens to be a fate. Now in this world, which is the same world as the Carvel world, fates are able to make bargains with humans. They're able to do different magical things, but the bargain is never what it seems. And so Evangeline goes to him to stop the wedding. He stops the wedding, not in the way that she wanted. And then as a result, like lots of things happen. Like Evangeline goes on an adventure, she meets vampires, she's got all sorts of things. She ends up with more of a bargain and entangled up with Jax. Like this is going to be so good. I want to reread it, and I want to read the second book. Like I'm actually, on the day I'm filming this, I'm going to be picking up that second book and starting it this evening. This very evening. But I'm also thinking I might read the last chapter of this before going into it because I loved it. It's so good. If you haven't read this and you do enjoy YA fantasy, please give it a try. If you are in need of a book that feels like a warm hug and it's going to make you smile at its ridiculous, super cute and sweetness, do it. Do it. It's like treacle. It's like treacle. It's so sweet, but I can't say no. There we go. I have explained the books. I am sorry for the weird chaotic energy, but all of these make me so happy and I love them so much. I do want to do other top 10 videos, like I did do a favourite cozy murder mysteries video, which I really enjoyed, especially because cozy murder mysteries are my favourite. I also want to do, as I said, videos on Greek myth retellings. Maybe even, I have toyed with dark academia as well, but I do enjoy it, but it doesn't give me this glow, this enjoyment. And then maybe even just like a top 10 books in, I don't know, it's really, really hard. I find it easier to do top 10 of a particular genre because my list of favourite books would just be all of these plus all the cozy murder mysteries plus it goes on. Goes on. But let me know if there's any other videos that you would like to see where I'm talking about favourite books or anything. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what is your favourite fantasy book. Or if you don't read fantasy, just what's a book that you've read lately that you absolutely love, or just let me know. Let me know. This was such a good film. Good film. A good video to film. We missed out words. I'm gonna leave you in peace because clearly I don't know what I'm saying anymore. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, then let's put a fox emoji. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe and comment to let me know that you're here. It really, really helps the channel out. And yeah, social media links all will be linked below, and I will catch you in the next one.